Hoo-ah! Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everybody. Pasta Jardula here.
What's up, guys? I'm Fiorella.
Why do you gotta go changing stuff on a Friday, fam? I'm Fiorella. What's up, guys? Who are you? What's up, guys?
Fam, I do what I want.
Fam, I know that. Obviously, you always have. Guys, let's do us a favor. Let's hit the like button, hit the share button. We are on 3 platforms right now. I'm going to actually share the Rumble on Twitter. And I want you guys to do the same, fam. I'm going to post it up on my Twitter right now. I'm also going to send you a link to where we can share this out. Guys, we are on Rumble. You're going to want to be over there today. Unless you're a Rockfin Premium member, the last section will be on Rumble only today. It's the 4th one. We're going to talk about New Zealand, fam, and what's going on over there. I mean, some really scary, crazy stuff is going on over there, fam. So for those who think that the COVID protocols are over and yada, 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 no, it's still, we're living in a 1984, COVID 1984 freaking craziness, fam. So we'll talk about that. So guys, do us a favor, Jilly Love, Lucky Burrito, anybody who's out there in moderator land who's watching the stream today, do us a favor, put the Rumble link inside the YouTube chat. The last section only today, ladies and gentlemen, will be on Rumble and Rumble only. Which, fam, I just made a bomb-ass tweet, and I wonder how it's going to be. I made it at the beginning of this, beginning of the show, just 5 minutes ago. I made a tweet because I'm not getting invited on certain shows, fam, to talk about, the Brazilian election, right? And everybody's screaming about the Brazilian election, fam. You think those same people are screaming for what's going on in Peru? Right?
No,
not at all, fam.
No.
No.
Yeah, just like the Twitter files is only alleging conservative voices are the ones that get censored. Nobody else does, just and they do. I mean, nobody here is denying that conservative voices aren't censored. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is why aren't you talking about the other stuff? And we know why they're not talking about the other stuff. And we're going to go into that as well. And I have a Whitney Webb, because I had to really rant about that stuff today to one of my friends. I just think so many people are wrong on that whole thing. But yeah, so we'll start with Peru. We're going to have Danny Shaw come on in about 20 minutes to talk about Peru and Argentina. Danny Shaw's been our comrade. He's been with us throughout, several places. We were with him in Brazil. We were with him in Nicaragua. Johnny and I were. I think you were sick that time.
I was sick. Yeah, he got COVID in Nicaragua.
He got COVID in Nicaragua.
Thank God we had ivermectin. I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ,
Already.
So this is why you can't have Pasta on air like that, because Pasta was on Jimmy Dore talking about Peru, which is cool. And I got a text from one of our viewers, Rocky, and he's like, why the hell is Pasta talking about your country on Jimmy Dore? I'm like, literally, because I'm like live at RT. I'm about to talk about it here. And he's like, oh, shit. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did a good enough job. The one mistake is I said Fujimoro instead of Fujimori, which is a classic common Pasta fucking fuck up.
It's a common everybody.
Fujimoro. Yeah. It's Fujimori, which once again, I say the president of Peru. Fiorella has used the term dictator. People have questioned that. But I mean, guys,
he was a dictator.
Working with the CIA. I mean, come on.
No. He wasn't a dictator because of CIA. He was a dictator because he didn't just like dissolve the Congress like in an emergency. He dissolved the Congress for years. Yeah. He took hold of all the media organizations. He took hold of everything. That's what a dictator does. There's no debate. He was a dictator.
Yeah.
I don't say that word lightly. The United States loves to call everybody a dictator. Yes. But Fujimori was you can even find mainstream media articles referring to him as a dictator.
Yeah.
But so I don't really care if people have problems with that. It's just a factual thing, whether you have a problem with it or not. But
I make sure, fam, to point out that it was at the behest of the CIA because he could do it with the CIA's backing. And that's why there's so many just fingerprints of Peru being Western controlled for so long. You know, even with Castillo, when he was campaigning, fam, he was going after the DEA and the CIA for the drug trade. He was talking about the minerals and the lithium trade and how they're going to start bringing that stuff back into the money of Peru. These are things that it's going to just be But I have your article, so let me know when you want to pull it up. By the way, fam, guess who was the first person in the door in the Rockfin was today?
Aram.
Ooh, sorry.
Trey.
The ding was for the right. The horn was for Aram. Aram will be along shortly. Hopefully, our good friend Rob Juno will be here. Many others that we love and love so much. Guys, thank you for the compliments. Thank you to the Patreons. Thank you for people who have signed up on Rockfin. We understand the price is going up a few bucks, but starting in the beginning of the year, we're going to be able to set a special price for combo couchers. I don't know what we call them, fam. You know what I'm saying? Like the Vanguard's got the Vanguardians or whatever they're called, or you know, they have all these people out there. We have combo couchers, couch potatoes, whatever we want to call them.
We are not calling people that.
Couch potatoes? No.
I refuse.
Fam, Johnny had the idea one day to make us into Mr. Potato Head characters. And we were couch potatoes. I thought it was
that's
genius.
Not cute. No.
Okay. Well, thank you to all those people anyways out there who make this possible. Me and fam might have to go to Peru soon. Let's just put it that way. We plan to go to Argentina. Cuba's on the dock. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. Fam, today Brazil lost in penalty kicks. They got their goal. Neymar, a beautiful goal in the first extra time. There's 2 extra time periods, 15 minutes and 15 minutes. That's if it's a tie score, right? So it was a tie score. They went to extra time. In the first extra time, the first 15 minutes plus stoppage, Neymar gets a beautiful goal. 1-0 Brazil. Everybody's cheering. The place is going crazy. All of a sudden, they don't care about Bolsonaro and Lula anymore. Mm-hmm. They're consumed with their most precious religion, soccer, or what they call football. And then in the second extra time, fam, Croatia gets a desperate goal. Now, the Croatians are like 40-1 to win in the whole thing from the round of 8. They were probably 100-1 to win the World Cup. But anyways, they're a huge underdog. They get a goal, fam. They bring it to stoppage time. Then they go to penalty kicks. And Brazil shanks a couple. And the Croats beat the number 1 ranked team.
Croatians, yeah.
Croats.
Yeah, they beat Brazil. That's this
huge.
Yeah, a lot of teams are surprising this year for a lot of people. So I think it's cool. I think it's surprising. But I'm not going to have any time to talk about all the stuff I need to talk about if we keep talking about
Go jump right into it. Here it is. Article.
So basically, guys, I did actually. Can you go to the tweet thread instead? It's right underneath the article. I did a whole tweet thread because I think a lot of people were coming at this, especially in media, not just mainstream media, but every media was coming at this. Castillo tried to form an attempted coup. But the reality is the coup had been formed against him for a long time from the beginning. And I went back. I'm not going to go over every single thing because I won't have time. Maybe I'll have to do a separate video on this. But basically, this stems from Peru's history of being extremely afraid, kind of like Brazil is, of the specter of communism, kind of like Colombia, where they see everything as being super communist. We anything that's remotely like pro-worker, they're like, oh my God, we're going to turn to Venezuela. That sentiment is primarily in Lima, the capital. But the saying goes, Peru no es Lima, Peru isn't Lima. This is what we talked about during the campaign for Pedro Castillo. Yeah. And we said that because that was what his one of his slogans was. That was what the people were saying, because the people who elected him were definitely outside of Lima, right? And so actually that's the bottom of the thread. If you go to the top,
yes ma'am,
it's at the top. So basically I started talking about the history of Peru and how this stems back to Peru's ties to neoliberalism, and that came from the Fujimori government. Fujimori was a dictator. He was the father of Keiko Fujimori. She ran against Pedro Castillo in 2021. She lost, but she tried to overturn the election and say that it was fraudulent. If anything, there was attempts to take votes away from Castillo. That was actually what happened more than anything. And in reality, she lost because she was extremely unpopular, even with somebody like Castillo, who people like were afraid, he might be too red, is what they would say in Peru, rojo. They preferred him to her because she's so corrupt and her whole family's corrupt, right? And so if you just scroll a little, I'll just touch on some quick points because this is a very long thread. So please go ahead and read the article. By the way, just a reminder, Castillo won with 50.12% of the vote against Keiko.
He was actually democratically elected. Just want to point that out. Sorry. For the people out there for all the people who are going to talk BS, Pedro Castillo, and this is my best Castillo hat. When I bought this hat to be a cowboy, I did say, oh man, I could look a little like Castillo because he has the big hat. But yes, fam, I just want to point out, because this is very, very important, because we see people who kind of manufacture consent for the West to back these situations, or to just say it was justified, because they'll frame Pedro Castillo as a communist. But at the end of the day, he was democratically elected, not the person.
Yeah. Even if he was a communist, which he wasn't at all. Yes. He was democratically elected. So why people need to learn to respect the will. And in Peru, it hasn't happened for years. That we've gone through 7 presidents in 7 years. This is ridiculous, right? So I talked about Alberto Fujimori and how he had this right-wing man called Vladimiro Montesinos, and Vladimiro Montesinos pretty much took money from the CIA and did their bidding and started saying, okay, we're going to put a giant crackdown on the Shining Path. The Shining Path was this Maoist group that came from this professor and teacher, Abimael Guzman, who indoctrinated young rural intellectuals with the idea of Marxism, the idea of just a communism in general. And they started learning about weaponry, tactics. The rural peasant class during this time was very, very, very much in need. They were poor. They were facing the usual discrimination, racism, all of that stuff. And then basically these people rose up and they were like, we need to establish a dictatorship of the proletariat. Following along that, they started building their cells, but their cells were more centralized instead of decentralized. When they revered Abimael Guzman. It was very much like he was like the guy to look up to. And basically when they started getting more radical in terms of distrusting the liberals, because they said the liberals were basically maintaining the status quo, so they were their enemies. And you can agree with a lot of this rhetoric if you're a communist, and you can say, yes, I agree with all this. Then what happened was they actually did bomb areas and people got killed. There are reports that was never the intention, that some people were infiltrated and they were trying to cause the chaos, which happens a lot in these sort of groups that tend to take over. And they killed people in Miraflores. Pasta knows because he's been to Miraflores. Miraflores is a nice area. It's where all the nicest restaurants, bars are, where it's more affluent. So they were going after the wealthy class because they saw that that's the only way to get rid of power, to get rid of their power. Now, people can sit there and say, well, that's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. But we also have to understand that they were pushed to a certain point. Not saying, at any point terrorizing innocent people is justified. I am saying, though, when you're talking about these ideologies, that they were almost, in a way, there was so much in there that still has to be talked about that I'd have to really do a deep dive on.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just these people just got up into this because they wanted violence. It was like a whole process, a lot of, chaos, infiltrations, betrayals. The CIA was involved. There's a reason the CIA was wanting to shut them down. So I don't think this is as black and white as I have been told my whole life. that they were just a terrorist group and that they were this and that. Like, I don't believe that, because that came from the establishment. Now, if you're on the receiving end of this, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's the
wow,
people
like
who
we're
are
getting
writing the
bombed,
books, fam, by
then
the way. That's the people
yeah,
who are kind of trying to rewrite
right.
history and tell their stories. They're going to be very slanted and biased. And as we understand, the people who write our history books, the people who make our laws, or just, well, they're in there to make the laws for the
Yeah.
elites. They're very anti-communist. They're very, anti-socialist. So they're going to frame these people as murderers, as thugs, as thieves. And I think you're right, fam. I don't think it is as easy as cut and dry as we were, as we're being told. I'm sure there was a lot of, and I'm not, like you said, I'm not going to justify this stuff, but when things go crazy and there's an uprising when you're in your own country, there's gonna be death and
It's
destruction all
and it's
across
for
the
a
board.
reason too.
Yeah,
Uprisings don't just happen. I mean, there's a reason why the royal class went in there. And of course, so the whole point of this is to show this is why Peru has a very just anti-communist
yeah,
stance, because that's really Lima in particular, more than Peru. I have to clarify Lima, because Lima is what was attacked. It turned into a civil war between the rural class and the urban. And
mm,
there's the urban poor, and the urban poor, just like the urban people in Sao Paulo, the urban people in Rio,
yeah.
whether they're working class, they support the neoliberal establishment.
All
We
right.
can analyze why on so many things, but they do. Oftentimes they do.
So this
So
is
that's
Fujimori then in 1992, fam.
Yeah, this is when he staged the coup. And this is why I do have to point this out. He dissolved Congress, he dismantled the judicial system, the government took control of all media and free institutions. He proclaimed that they would return within a year, and that never happened. So he completely took over. And then what ended up happening is, in their so called effort to stop the reign of terror of the Shining Path, they ended up sponsoring state sanctioned killings. They ended up killing a lot of rural people, peasants that they said were involved with Shining Path, even though there was no evidence. They just started killing people. And then they also started doing very, Nazi like sterilizations on the women. It just became very, very bad for the people of Peru. Meanwhile, the economy was completely awful. And so this is the history on the back of this, right? And one of the groups that was actually kind of like a middleman trying to bring peace were the ronderos. And the ronderos are where Castillo comes from. He's from Cajamarca and this region. And he from the moment, because of where he was from, he literally was pointed out as being a communist and being this and that. He was a teacher. He was a strike he was a striker. He was a kind of like the equivalent, what I would say, like a union type of guy. He was definitely not anybody remotely on that end. But it's funny, because who came out to support him? Nicolas Maduro, Evo Morales, more radical, stronger leaders, I would say, because he
Yep.
was weak. And in this whole thing, I do mention his mistakes. He literally alienated himself from his party. He fired a bunch of people. He tried to placate to the right wing, which by right wing in Peru, it's basically the neoliberal pro big business group that wants to basically sell out of Peru, sell all of Peru to the West, to multinational corporations. The same similar things that are happening in Brazil. And the reason these things are similar is because these are resource rich countries. We're talking about minerals. We're talking about the Amazon.
Mhm.
Peru has a portion of the Amazon. Same with Brazil. We're talking about lithium, the lithium triangle in Puno. We're talking about so many minerals, copper. And so
Yeah.
from the moment that he came in, they were like, no, we can't have him. He wanted to nationalize certain industries, particularly related to mining. He wanted, no more poor people in a rich country. They couldn't have that. And so from the moment he went in, time after time, they devised corruption charges. Oh, he evaded tax. He did this. They really didn't have much of anything, which is why he didn't go to jail until now. Because the only thing they could get him on really is, oh, he's tried to commit a coup. But this is the big news that I want to tell you guys here. He technically did not commit a coup. He technically didn't. He said he would dissolve Congress as an emergency because he was responding to what he knew would happen, was he was getting couped. And he was, according to sources that I have, told, and according to Peruvian independent media that, like us, counters the mainstream media, because in Peru, the media is bought as well. He was pretty much told that this was the only thing he could do. And they even said, oh, you can go to the embassy. But he was blocked from going to the embassy by those closest to him. He was completely just betrayed by those closest to him. In fact, there is a video of the vice president, who is now the president, right? She said, wherever Castillo goes, I will go with him. I will always stand by him. And she's shouting in Spanish. Literally, one of the first people to betray him. She literally was like, I'm president and I'm going to stay president till 2026 because Peru has a 5-year term.
Yeah.
So she literally was like, oh, I'm going to stay president. And she said, no, I disagree with what he did. This is wrong. We have to respect the Constitution. So this is them saying they have to respect the Constitution. Meanwhile, the Constitution hasn't been respected forever. There's a reason why we've had 7 presidents in 8 years. There's no way that every single president is corrupt. There's just no way. What the Congress does is they manipulate and set people up. They buy everybody out. They also rely on an attorney general, or what we refer to as like an alcalde. It's like somebody that's above the judges. And this person is corrupt. There are reports that this woman who is the attorney general doesn't even have a real degree, that she made up a real degree. I'm not making this up. This is from Peruvian media that I've been listening to a lot. And I obviously have family in Peru, and my most of my family is not pro Castillo, but there are a few that are more independent thinking. And so it's crazy to me. But when I've been listening to Peruvian independent media, looking at these videos, it all makes sense. And I was listening a while ago, from the moment they were trying to get rid of him. Remember, Pasta? We were like, oh, they're going to try to get rid of this guy. And it's all happened. It's all happened in that way. It's all happened where they finally got this. He fell into their trap. Because to the rest of the media that doesn't know the context of Castillo's, they've been trying to get rid of him for a long time. They've been trying to coup him. His actions of dissolving Congress, because of what happened with Fujimori, because of what's happened just before with other presidents, the media painted him as the bad guy. Oh, he's the one leading the coup, completely ignoring everything else, the context, the fact that they were attempting to coup him for a long time, right? And here's where he was offered asylum in Mexico. So he tried to get to the embassy. He was stopped. He didn't make it to the embassy. He was stopped by these people. They were Fujimoristas. My mom told me, I spoke to her today. She said that they were the Fujimoristas that stopped him, that they hate him. And she also told me that she gets messages, some of the people that she knows in Peru, like from the moment he became president, they were sending like really, really racist, derogatory memes, like "Este Cholo es presidente." Cholo is like, I don't know. It's just it's not necessarily a bad word, but like in terms of how it's used, they saw him as lesser than, like he shouldn't be this guy. Like anybody that's not from Lima, they see as like just uneducated, dumb, like they can't govern. Like it's really, really bad. This is why a lot of these people don't like Evo Morales. They say he's corrupt. If you listen to mainstream Peruvian media, all they do is badmouth Evo Morales. It is like the complete worst. And Evo Morales, of course, was one of the few that actually said this from the beginning, right? And I do think Bolivia and Peru share this bond in terms of culture and in terms of so many things, because they are like pretty much part of the same region. And it's just Bolivia has embraced more of its indigenous roots, whereas Peru has completely, especially in Lima, forgotten it. Now, the outside of Lima, though, it's important to highlight, it's the opposite. People are angry. People are upset. They are forgotten. They are completely dismissed as a people. And in Arequipa right now, which is a region in Peru, more on the near the rural Sierra side. Arequipa is people are rising up. People are rising up in the rural areas, and they're coming. So here's one example. This was yesterday. Peruvians were marching to Lima to demand the closure of the right-wing majority Congress that ousted Pedro Castillo in the legislative coup, because that's what it was. And they were marching towards Lima. So there was a lot of people there. This is one picture from Casachuan, and the sign says Fujimori never again, because they know that the people who push this coup are Fujimoristas. They know that.
And
they
she's
know that
pulling a lot of the
because
strings. They know that, right, fam? Yeah.
she's not in power. She's not even in there, but it's her party and
yeah.
it's her influence, and she has the most influence in the with big business, with all the business sector. They spent millions on her campaign. And so her party are all part of it. And so today I got more information that this goes deeper than Pedro Castillo and what they're trying to do to him. This is about none other than the mining. This is about the fact that they want to take over these mines, and Fujimori is leading this. She was always leading this because she has close ties to these multinational corporations that basically want to profit off the mines. And apparently they've been killing people in Peru, and Whitney kind of talked a little bit about this happening.
They march them right off a cliff, Sam.
Yeah, so she was on our show and she talked about this. This is happening now a lot. And so they've been killing people, the people who own lands, the rural people who own lands in Peru, kind of like what's happening in Brazil. They've been killing them to take their lands. So we're talking about like mercenaries. We're talking about a narco type of cartel is also involved. And these cartels are basically in bed with the Congress, and they're basically protected by the Congress, and the Congress is protected by the Attorney General, and the Attorney General is protected by the Congress. Yeah. And there is, according to independent media in Peru, they were offered 3 million soles for their vote to oust Castillo. Yes. In this legislative coup,
which is important, fam, by the way, because they wanted to show the numbers like 103 to 6. So they wanted to make sure that vote was very, very patterned and right, and that they can go, look, it's the Peruvian Congress that wants them out. Look at that. But I think we also understand, fam, right, that if a lot of those people didn't play ball, they'd find themselves in the same position Pedro Castillo would be in. Right? I mean,
and they wanted the money because I'm just gonna be honest. That's how Peru, the current government works. The police often bought off. There was a case my family was undergoing where they hired a lawyer to do a certain process. The lawyer was bought off by somebody else. This happens all the time. It's just bribery, and that's the system that is set up based on who has the most money, how much are you worth? Honestly, that's just the way it is. So yeah, the majority of the Congress was anti-Castillo to begin with. So it was easy for them. It was a no-brainer. But even the closest people to him turned against him. So
let's bring in Danny Shaw because he's not here on limited time. I'm going to play this one video by our good friend Nicolas Maduro and his opinions on what's going on, and then we'll let Danny jump right in. If you don't know, now you know. Danny Shaw is back on the show. He's our man. The team met him down in Nicaragua. I got to spend some time with him down in Brazil. He's just a wealth of knowledge. He's also an amazing person, a great soul, and I consider him already in such a short amount of time a good friend. When you get to go over and do these life-changing trips, guys, it's just amazing. So let's play Nicolas Maduro real quick, and then we'll bring in Danny Shaw to also get an opinion on what's going down in Peru.
Eligen a un maestro presidente, Pedro Castillo. Y desde el primer momento de la elección no le quieren reconocer el triunfo. Le ningunean el triunfo. Al final, obligados por la realidad, tienen que reconocerle el triunfo como presidente. Y una vez que se juramenta el 28 de julio del año 2021, comienza la conspiración para un golpe parlamentario. Son las élites oligárquicas que no permiten que un simple maestro llegue a la presidencia del Perú e intente gobernar para el pueblo. Es el mensaje que envía la extrema derecha a los movimientos populares, a los movimientos progresistas. No los vamos a dejar gobernar. Pero desde Venezuela le decimos a la derecha extrema, en Venezuela ustedes no volverán. No volverán. La misma oligarquía que persiguió a Sucre y desconoció sus glorias, la misma oligarquía que persiguió a Bolívar.
Welcome back to the show. I know, right? You gotta welcome back to the show. He's a bus driver. He got to be able to govern there, but they said they wouldn't let a simple teacher reach the presidency of Peru. We have a not a simple teacher in my mind, but a great teacher, a great professor. Danny Shaw is with us. How you doing today, Danny Shaw?
Peace, Fiorella, Pasta. Thanks for the invite. I think Nicolas Maduro once again proves himself to be a continental spokesperson for the downtrodden, for the anti-imperialist forces, like Evo Morales. They've stood up in these key moments, shoulder to shoulder with Cristina Kirchner de Fernandez, with Pedro Castillo, and all of the different leaders across the continent who are under persecution in these lawfare campaigns. So glad we got to listen to El Comandante Nicolás Maduro.
So, Danny, I just right away, we're going to talk about Argentina as well, but I just wanted to ask you a couple questions on your take of what you think is happening in Peru, because not just mainstream media, but a lot of even independent media, even, Russian media, they don't really know the intricacies, the context of how this happened. To anybody, it just looks like, oh, Castillo tried to dissolve Congress. He's trying to pull a coup. In your opinion, what actually is the reality that Peru has been facing?
Just as we heard there in the clip from Maduro, the moment that Pedro Castillo wins a razor small margin over the far right, over Keiko Fujimori, there is a consistent harassment campaign. We have these incestuous connections between the media in Peru. We're talking about two families who control 98% of all media within Peru, both print and visual media. So this campaign against Castillo, I remember Vladimir Cerrón was going to be his vice president. They did everything they could to block Castillo from the jump. This was not one of their henchmen. This was not one of their puppets. This was somebody who came from the interior, who came from the rural areas, the campesino interests, someone who had been a diligent union leader. So the pressure was on from the jump. They've carried out 3 official campaigns to have him impeached. So Pedro Castillo, I don't think it's still 100% clear exactly where he was, who he was organizing with, or what type of strategic decision that he made. But he tried to preemptively dissolve this reactionary Congress, a Congress that certainly does not represent the vast majority of Peru. And in a way, it seems like he fell into a type of trap, because if you read the headlines, whether it's Reuters or AP, anything in the corporate press, it's almost like Castillo handed them a gift, because they claim that he was the one trying to victimize, and that there were clear reasons for him to now be thrown out of office and even locked up, as we've seen from the images. So this is class warfare against the Peruvian people playing out at the highest summits of the executive office, Congress. But it is the conniving, the collusion of the media with this judicial warfare. These have been the 2 arms that the right wing have been using against these popular presidents who have came to power recently in Bolivia, in Chile, despite whatever critiques we have of Boric in Chile. Castillo was by no means a radical. He wasn't part of the Bolivarian momentum. Castillo, at this point wasn't even able to look towards Venezuela or Cuba. But just the fact that he represented some type of social progress, maybe kind of a Bernie Sanders-esque social progress, forgive the analogy, which is never perfect, but for U.S. audience, and that's what they could never forgive.
Well, here's my question to you, Danny. A lot of people call me and they say, hey, Pasta, what's going on in Peru? I don't understand what's going on. If there's a reason to remove Pedro Castillo, what is it? Is it more than just the minerals? I said, well, the lithium triangle is there. There's a lot of lithium. We understand the fourth industrial revolution. There's a race to get all these minerals there. Obviously, China's kind of moving into the situation when it comes to Latin America and Africa, also in a race for these minerals. But did the drug trade or the monetary system, is that another reason why the Western influence would want to remove Pedro Castillo? Or is it mostly about the minerals?
If we look at the highest concentration of mineral wealth, oil and gas wealth in the entire world, we're looking at South America, we're looking at Russia, we're looking at the Middle East. So certainly imperial interests know no borders, respect no borders. They're going to chase down across the globe, and that's why they have one of their biggest Coast Guard bases in Peru. And I don't even think Castillo had the opportunity to take on these big questions of whether he would go face to face against U.S. imperialism, because he was so busy trying not to drown. That's what we symbolically see what's played out in the past 72 hours. If he can't even stay afloat amidst domestic politics, how can he take on the greatest purveyor of violence that humanity's ever known, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, the U.S. Government? So certainly they saw him as somebody they could potentially work with on another level. But as we've heard from the State Department, they had they did not hesitate to back Dina Boluarte, who's the vice president, who's now the president. They've pivoted towards her. We heard Keiko Fujimori congratulate her. So the extreme right wing has removed the first piece that served as a type of obstacle for their designs, the designs of neocolonialism, to continue to keep Peru. Peru is a massive country, a country with incredible resources. You mentioned the lithium. If people haven't spent time in Peru, you have the North Pacific coast, a very tropical climate. You have so much diversity across Peru, different types of climates, etc. So I think imperialism, whether they're looking at a small-sized country like Haiti in the Caribbean, or a medium-sized country like Peru, or a massive, massive country like Brazil, Russia, or China, they're going to stop at nothing to pursue their interests across the globe. That's what's playing out right now in Peru. There's absolutely no clarity. There's the diametrical opposite playing out in the corporate media, both here and in Peru. And what the right wing in Peru has been saying for so long is that if Castillo came to power, Peru would be the next Cuba or Venezuela. So there's been these demonization campaigns. So what we saw play out these past few days was really the crystallization of what's played out over the last year and a half since he was elected last July 2021.
Fam, really quickly, I just want to say too, while we got Danny here, what you just said is so important, because I just made a tweet and I pretty much said that, there's speculation that the Brazilian election was rigged. MAGA goes crazy. Fingerprints, dirty CIA actions in a Western-backed coup in Peru. Silence across the board. Why? Because they use the communism play. Oh, Lula's communist. Oh, Pedro Castillo is communist. They use that to manufacture consent and then turn a blind eye to what's actually going on in Peru right now. Wouldn't you agree that this is a common thing that they constantly do, Danny?
Yeah, 100%. If we look at the Southern Cone in the 1960s, 70s, into the 80s, Argentina, Uruguay, Bolivia, Paraguay, Brazil, Peru, all of these countries, dictatorships came into power. And this was the period known as La Guerra Sucia, the dirty war. This book by Eduardo Galeano, Days and Nights of Love and War, takes you into Argentina and Uruguay and in Bolivia and in Peru in those years. and what it meant to be a union leader or a leftist. You were simply disappeared. You were eliminated. You were tortured. I'll just quote here. Eduardo Galeano, it is both journal and history spanning more than 2 decades of the lives and struggles of the Latin American people, alternating between reportage and personal vignettes. Galeano vividly conveys what it is like to live with constant fear of arrest or torture, never knowing when you or someone you love will be picked up or killed one night or the next day. And the reason I refer back to this dirty war, or golpismo in español, is because they've had to modernize their attacks on popular movements. Cristina Kirchner de Fernandez is the modern representation of Peronismo, of social democracy, of the interests of the most vulnerable sectors of Argentinian society. 40.1% of Argentinians live in poverty, even though this country is often mischaracterized as similar to a European country in terms of the benefits the populace supposedly receives. So nowadays, the tactics may not be on the surface as bloody, but any leader who emerges, whether it's in Venezuela, whether it's in Bolivia, whether it's in Mexico, there's been a lot of attacks on AMLO as well, even though AMLO is not as far to the left and not the anti-imperialist that Evo Morales or Hugo Chavez or Nicolas Maduro has been, or the Cuban leadership. But they're not going to permit any of these leaders to take power. So it's the judicial warfare. It's the media warfare. It's these incestuous interests. There's leaked messages that have actually come out in Argentina that have exposed how corrupt these judges and these courts are and what they do in their campaigns against Pedro Castillo, against Cristina Fernandez. They basically hold up a mirror to themselves. They accuse their class enemies of the very things they're most responsible for: lying, monopolization of power and of the media, of corruption, of course, being the number one buzzword. So again, it's a gift to the pro-imperialist press, because they just grab these quick feeds and headlines to say that, Cristina has now been condemned to 6 years in jail. We don't know how long Pedro Castillo will be in jail. The number one demand of the Peruvian people right now is liberty for Pedro Castillo and a return to the popular path. So the entire left is standing behind Castillo, despite whatever differences they have with the social democratic model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess just going on Cristina, right? Because she went through this whole assassination attempt, right? And she's gone through so many accusations. And whenever you talk about her, let's say you talk about her on social media, particularly Twitter, and you say, she has denied these allegation charges. There is a coincidence that happened where she was arrested, or she was not arrested, but placed with these charges that happened right after there was an exposure of audios just completely criminalizing a lot of her enemies. Is she a threat in terms of, I know she said things about the IMF. I know she's like you said, she's a social democrat. She's not necessarily the most radical person, but she was the favorite to win in 2023 for the presidential election. She is the vice president. This would bar her from running for office. We've seen what happened with Imran Khan, where they've tried similar things. Is this an attempt to keep her from office? And what threats did she actually represent for the establishment, and maybe beyond the establishment, for the Western establishment?
100%, Fiorella. This is how we have to understand these attacks on Cristina. They tried to physically eliminate her through an assassination plot on September 1st, which was unsuccessful. There's been an ongoing media campaign against her. And since they've been unsuccessful this far, now that if they haven't been able to physically eliminate her, they're trying to eliminate her perpetually. Because remember, this is a permanent ban from politics. Now it's going to go to higher courts. It's going to be appealed. But as of right now, she's banned for running for office. This is the potential winner of the elections coming up next year in Argentina. So really, the course of modern Argentinian politics has been this showdown with two paths forward: Peronismo, or social democracy, Argentinian style. In 2003, as part of the Pink Tide, Nestor Kirchner, Christina's husband, comes into power. And then Cristina wins the presidency a few terms later. And it's been an ongoing attack against her. El Grupo Clarín in Argentina would be the equivalent of NBC or CBS, one of the biggest media groups. You have Infobe and these other groups. And imagine these massive media monopolies, the Argentinian millionaires and billionaires wagging a finger at Cristina, at one of the most popular politicians in Argentinian memory, up there with Evita Perón and with the Colonel Perón, Juan Perón. And that's why they're trying to get rid of her. They understand that if they can cut off the head of this popular movement, then people will become demoralized. Yeah. There's been over 650 fraudulent charges against Cristina since 2004. And this is just the crystallization of this judicial warfare in an attempt to dispirit and demoralize not just Cristina. If we listen to her press conference yesterday, she just wants to go home and be with her family because she wants to stay alive. So right now, the right wing in Argentina and their imperial backers are definitely in a celebratory mode.
You know, Fiorella mentioned in her thread in her article, and a lot of people have been saying this. I was on Jimmy Dore the other day talking about Peru, and I mentioned the mistakes that Pedro Castillo made, right? You know, pretty much getting into office, bending the knee of sorts. I don't want to say completely to the right wing. You know, I think he was trying to get something done in a gridlock Congress, and knowing that he wasn't going to have a lot of support for his ideas and the things he campaigned on. But getting rid of his foreign minister, and then also trying to work, throwing shade at Daniel Ortega. A lot of people looked at him and said, what are you doing? You know, when we talk to people in Peru, specifically the waiters, the bartenders, the cab drivers, the Lyft drivers, they said that Pedro Castillo was weak, that he was just not, you know, they looked at his decisions, even though they weren't supportive of him, you know, or maybe some were supportive of him, they looked at his moves as being very weak. Did Cristina Fernandez make any sort of the same mistakes that Pedro Castillo made, or is she just pretty much played her cards right to put herself in the position where she's at today to maybe appeal this whole sentence and possibly run for president next year?
Well, Cristina's got a lot more political experience than Castillo. I think that's the first thing that I wanted to highlight. She's 69 years of age. She's been doing this now for decades. She knows where she stands ideologically. At the heart of this debate in Argentina is the odious debt, $44 billion that, quote unquote, the Argentinian people owe to the, guess who? IMF. Of course, this is the United States' way of continuing to control these neo-colonies. It's a very sophisticated monetary way, economic way of doing it, of increasing dependency. So you have Mauricio Macri, who was the president before Alberto Fernandez. Alberto Fernandez with Cristina as the vice president. That's who's in power right now. This odious debt, of course, reflects the other way, the right-wing way, the neo-colonial way. And their biggest impediments to Macrismo, to this model of dependency, have been the Kirchners and the neo-Peronistas of today. So they'll stop at nothing to get them out of their way. Now, the private debt is even higher than the $44 billion supposedly owed to the IMF. What the IMF then does is they can restructure and manage all of Argentinian economic life. When we talk about Argentina, we're not talking about a small country or a small economy. We're talking about a massive economy, a big piece of the global chessboard. So the U.S. would try to, in 2022, wipe its hands clean as if they had nothing to do with this. But that's why the Central Intelligence Agency and U.S. intelligence and all of these different international banks. Of course, they always want to throw the word development in there, but these are banks of underdevelopment. They're banks of exploitation. But they're working overtime to constantly undermine any true participatory democratic model. And Christina said that yesterday in her press conference. She said, they're condemning me because they've condemned the economic model of independence that we represent.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's powerful, because that is why, for example, in China and is working with Russia to try to find other systems away from SWIFT, where they don't have to rely on that, where they are trying to find ways to rely on their own currencies and not the petrodollar, because this is how it works. You seek independence and they try to throw you out. Danny, just I guess the last question is, what do you think Latin America is how well things are going? Because things were going pretty well. I mean, there's been elections with more progressive type of presidents, popular presidents that people elected to have some sort of hope. We've seen it in Colombia, we've seen it in Brazil, and now we're seeing we saw it with Castillo, and then now we're seeing, him get cooed. We're seeing Cristina, who was a favorite to win. We were all excited. Now it's going to be extremely difficult for her to run. Where do you see the United States coming in? I know there's a bill in Central America to try to rein in Honduras, Nicaragua, and even El Salvador. So do you see Latin America in peril right now, in spite of the attention being obviously in Ukraine and Asia?
Certainly, these are steps back. And again, this is the crystallization of how many centuries, decades, years of struggle. And it's playing out particularly in an acute way this week. Sergio Moro, the principal judge who persecuted Dilma Rousseff and Lula in Brazil, was quick to congratulate the coup mongers in Peru and in Argentina. So we see the international connections that the right wing has across the continent. These are steps back. But in a way, the right wing was already in the driver's seat. I mean, Castillo was handicapped from day one. He wasn't allowed to stand by his appointments. He wasn't able to follow Peru Libre and Vladimir Cerrón in their ideological direction. He became increasingly isolated. So we definitely have to call it what it is. At the same time, I think the Peruvian people are more mobilized than ever when they democratically elected Pedro Castillo, one of their very own from the interior, a school teacher. And to see him by these political elites in Peru be impeached and imprisoned and humiliated hurts the very soul of these ancestors, of these descendants of Tupac Amaru and how many fearless warriors. So I think it's an ongoing struggle. And I think there's an important ideological point at play here. From the time we are little kids in this country, we're told all politicians are corrupt and politics is 100% corrupt. And that's what the right wing is trying to do right now. They're trying to point the finger and pivot and demonize and vilify these representatives of popular interests, of the most marginalized, to basically tell people you have no hope. So I think it's important right now to be the standard bearers and the defenders of anti-imperialist hope, of the hope of equality, that the most marginalized can stand up, take their destiny back into their own hands and be self-determining. So I think that's what's at stake in all of these different localized struggles, whether it's Peru or Argentina or anywhere across the hemisphere.
Danny, my last question too is, well, really quickly, because I was going to let you get out of here and I know you got to go, but don't you think that maybe, because we've said this before and you've heard me speak, the right wing in Latin America is so different than the right wing in the United States. And a lot of times the left wing in the United States, which isn't left wing, but is looked upon as left wing, supports more of these coups and the right wing governments in Latin America. Do you think we should use a term different than right wing? Because when we say right wing in Latin America, it's so different than what it means in the United States. A lot of times the right wing in Latin America, these like coups, I should say birthed out of the coups, birthed out of the CIA, their death squads. they're so different than what we experience. So I think sometimes when we say right wing, it might be a turnoff to the right wing in the United States. For the elites, we've used the term predator class because there's nothing elite about them. Is there different language we can maybe use, or at least bring some recognition that it's very different down south than it is here at home?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's an important ideological point, political point. Throughout the course of South American history, what you have initially is the Spanish, the original colonizing power in the case of Brazil, of course, Portugal. And then later on, you have the century of American exceptionalism and U.S. neocolonialism. So in Haiti, they say tissu blanc, which would be translated as the gringo or the white man's puppets. I think we can get much more colorful and creative with our with our political vocabulary, whatever helps us wage and win what Fidel Castro called the most important battle, the battle of ideas. When I spent a lot of months last year in Haiti, the Haitian leadership, that's what they said to me. They said, forget about the military repression. The most important thing here is the ideological and the communicational oppression. How can we get a different perspective out on Haiti and restore to the everyday Haitian people and the Haitians in the diaspora a sense of hope? So I think it's important to have that revolutionary optimism, no matter what we call our class enemies.
Awesome, Danny. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on. Did you have something else to say, Pasta?
Yeah, I just want to say that doesn't Danny look awesome today? He looks like a combination of Jason Statham and Liam Neeson when he plays Sabretooth in the Wolverine movies. He looks like a friggin' hero down there, brother. We love you. Thank you so much for coming on today, man.
See you all soon.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. He went. Argentina's playing soccer right now. Get on over there and go take a look. So that's what's going on. We're talking about Argentina while they're playing soccer in Brazil, losing this morning to Croatia. Kind of crazy. Fam, did you want to talk about anything? I have some of these pictures I wanted to show. Really
I just want to show you guys some of the pictures because I was informed that Peruvians are using a lot of Chinese apps and they use a lot of Huawei phones. And a lot of this is not being shown because they use these like social media sites that are Chinese and I tried on my iPhone and I can't see it, but I can probably see it on my Russian phone. So I'm going to keep looking tonight into more stuff because there's so much more to cover about this. But this is they were rising up. I believe this is Arequipa. This is after. So this is from a live feed, and this is after. It was much bigger before, so I just took a still so you guys could see. These are the rural people from the inside, as Danny said, just going to the streets, and they're coming from different provinces. This is just one. There's several, and you have to understand in Peru, it's like they don't have like massive highways. They have like little highways, so they're coming in caravans, and so this is something that I wanted to show as well. This is from, I believe it's a TikTok, but it says, "We are the defenders of the democracy." These are militant groups that have rose up and they're saying they're going to defend the president that they're standing by Castillo. Now, they're not part of the Peruvian military. They're part of their own military, essentially. So they've started to kind of arm themselves. Okay. So I got told that this might get hairy. Things are going to get hairy. My mom was saying there could be a civil war if this continues. The majority of the Peruvian media is the corrupt media, the bot media, and the politicians are all saying, "Oh, we just want peace. Peru wants to unite its people." This is what they do. If you guys recall when Hillary Clinton nomination against Bernie Sanders, anytime there's some sort of people are pissed off, we just want unity. We need unity. We need to come together to defeat whatever, right? That's what the establishment is saying. We need unity. We need peace. The Peruvian people want peace. The Peruvian people aren't in Lima only. They're completely ignoring everybody else, right? And I translated this from this independent publication, La República. It said, "Protest today, live passengers asked for the, can you live passengers asked for the presence of the PMP to unlock pathways, because basically they're asking for for Congress. They want two things. They want three things, kind of. They want Congress to be dissolved and have new elections. They want Pedro Castillo released, and they want a new then if not Pedro, then they want a new presidential election. And it says marches at the national level are recorded after the vacancy of Pedro Castillo, protesters calling for the closing of Congress and a new election. So they are, see here, cierra el Congreso. They want them to close the Congress. They see the Congress is corrupt. Congress has less than an 11% approval rating. They don't care. There is a video, and I didn't put it on here because you guys wouldn't understand it, but it's a woman, a congressional woman, and she's being asked by a citizen journalist that went out there, and he's like, how do you feel about you having an 11% approval rating? And she says, it could get to 0. We don't care. We're going to stay here. The Peruvian people want unity. So they don't care that they're unpopular. They're just going to maintain power. They're not going to give in. I don't see these people giving in, Pasta. These people that elected Castillo, as Danny said, this hurts their soul. This was one of them that got to power, to the presidency, to represent them, to represent their ideals, to represent just their economic strife. And basically he got made a fool. And yes, he was weak. He made a lot of mistakes. He became isolated. He tried to placate it to the right, as you mentioned. But in spite of that, he was also dealt a very difficult hand in a gridlock type of Congress where he couldn't get much done. And we know this is all about the money. We know this is all about the minerals. And we know that the U.S. is keen to support Dina Boluarte, because Dina Boluarte was quickly easy to turn. And so she's going to do whatever they want. And we know that this is bigger than just Castillo, but it's what he represents and the people of Peru outside. So I do think that if there's not a civil war, there's definitely going to be, there's unrest. And I was told that there could be people disappeared. Notice how Danny mentioned that during a certain time period, if you were, a leftist in these countries, especially Chile, during Pinochet, you would just be disappeared. You would just completely go away. And there is a fear of that because, like I was saying before Danny came on, there are ties to the Congress and these narco cartels that are involved, a lot of corruption that they don't want exposed. And what we're going to see is possibly a lot of civil unrest, people perhaps getting hurt. And it's not a good situation in Peru right now. I would definitely like to be there. But, I was told this is dangerous, right? Like this is, it's terrible. And yeah, no, I know Peru is, as Danny said, controlled by 2 families. It's the media is just 100% corrupt. But there are some outlets that have been on Facebook, on mainly Facebook is what they use. They've used other alternative forms of like Chinese media, social media, and they have been putting out, interviews. They have been criticizing this move. They are standing with Castillo and really just saying the truth. They're really just saying they're turning against the corporate media. So there are voices, alternative voices. When I was there covering Castillo's election, I ran into some people that were really excited to see me there from the United States, and obviously Peruvian. But yeah, it's a really dire situation right now. And there's so much information and historical context that goes into all of Latin America, which is why it's good to have Danny on, good to have other people on, because it's just so much information that we don't know as a people, because we should have been taught this stuff, but we weren't even taught like our own history in the United States, let alone like how Latin America came to be.
Fam, I don't know how we want to break that up. Do we want to go into the next section with to go over a little bit more of the Argentina stuff, or do we have enough for now?
No, I think we did. We covered it last time.
I think we're good too. Yeah. In fact, we'll just make sure we rearrange the doc to get the thumbnails made right. I thought that was awesome what Danny came into play and what he talked about. He's so awesome. I mean, when I just said I met the guy for the first time in Brazil because I wasn't able to get to Nicaragua for the inauguration. The guy's just a wealth of knowledge. Great guy, humble, loving, gentle fucking giant. Love the dude. Can't wait to see him again.
He looks so short on camera, but he's so tall.
Big, dude. He's like, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, he looks like a superhero. Jason Statham, fam. That's the guy who does the Guy Ritchie movies and became an action star here in the United States. And Liam Neeson, when he was in the Wolverines movie, did you see Danny Shaw had the chops? Like if Danny shaved right in here in his goatee area, he'd have these beautiful chops. He looks great. Love you, Danny Shaw. So here, let me give you that. Hoo-ah! Guys, do us a favor. Get on over to the Convo Couch in the Rumble, right? We have the Rumble going on. We have about 50 people watching over there, which is awesome. But we want to get more, so go ahead, jump on in. We also have the Rockfin if you're a premium member. We have 16 people over there. Fam, can you share that there? Maybe get that out there. The Rockfin, you did? Okay, I don't know. We need to get some more Rockfin members over there. Please, guys, do us a favor. If you can, go on over to the Rockfin. Help us out. If you can do a membership, it's $14.99 a month. Starting next month, we'll have a special price for Convo Potato Couchers.
Fam? No. Fam, we are not calling them Potato Couchers.
Okay. Fam, remember when we're done with this?
TCC fam. That's fine.
Okay. Fam, when we're done, make sure we just change the titles of section 2 with Danny Shaw, and we'll leave you the
just
first
combine
section.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we need to cut them up in 2. Your section first, and then Danny's second. Because you went into you wanted the same thing?
Yeah.
But then it's like an hour, not a half hour each one. All right, whatever. Let's just get on over to the next part into the files, Sam, because this is going to be very, very long. I have your tweets there too. We'll throw them in at the end too as well, and I have mine as well. From this whole situation, fam. This is, oh my God. First of all, let me just say that I think we all called this before it happened. A lot of us, when it came to the whole Twitter file situation, when Elon Musk took over, when Elon Musk had talked about this, we said, okay, listen, I don't want to see you just bringing some information of one guy getting shadow banned or this person getting shadow banned. We want to see the whole engine. We want to lift up the hood. We want to see the algorithm. We want to know the reasons why and how somebody gets demonetized, somebody gets shadow banned, which is a new term for it now, fam, now that these have been released. We want to know how it works. We want an open source system, okay? This whole thing, fam, the first one came out, Matt Taibbi. The second one, Barry Weiss, which we'll go over. It just seems like red meat. And I'm not talking red meat meaning cow or bull or whatever. I'm saying that it's conservative red meat, that they're going to finger conservatives, that they're going to point the finger at them, and that they're going to make this more divisive. In other words, they're going to piss off more people and move people more into the team sports mentality, fam. And that's exactly what we got. Did we not?
No, that's exactly what it is. And it's because it fits Musk's narrative right now, where the right is really loving him in the States because they see him as, oh, he's exposing all these people. And I disagree with a lot of people that have been out there saying, this is amazing, this is great. And I really hate the sensational way, like, this is being played out by both Taibbi and Weiss. Like, oh my God, take a look. This is great. Oh my God. Like, it's really, when you actually look at the documents, they're first of all, they're screenshots. And she took a screenshot of a screenshot. So she took her phone and took a screenshot of her computer or whatever. I don't understand. So if, like, when we're talking about documents, direct source material, WikiLeaks, that's the kind of thing I would like, right? We're talking about, okay, like, you can look at these emails. You can see it for yourself. Look, you click here, that's all there. Wow, this is what happened. Collateral damage. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what you can see. This is just really weird. And the way it's being released, and they're saying, well, we have more. We haven't released it all, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I just don't buy it, the legitimacy. And sources do matter. I'm sorry. Who these people are matter. Who Elon Musk is matters to me. Who he is, who his connections, what he represents. And to me, there's a reason why all of these people, and she's going to go on, you can go through the thread if you want. Yeah. She literally names all these conservative people. There's one guy that's one of the COVID people, but everybody else was not even about COVID.
COVID is checking a box, fam. COVID is checking a box. They had to get a COVID. They had to get a transgender situation, right? They had to get everything that just moves the conservative base. Then you got to get your 2 China hawks. Let's just get back to this because COVID checks a box.
But it wasn't that much COVID stuff. It was just like one thing.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't that much COVID stuff.
So they call it the Twitter secret blacklist. And here it goes. It says a new Twitter files investigation reveals that the teams of Twitter employees build blacklists, prevent disfavored tweets from trending, and actively limit the visibility of an entire account or even trending topics, all in secret without informing the users.
No way Twitter does this.
No. Twitter once had a mission to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Along the way, barriers nevertheless were erected. Fam, take for example, Stanford's, here we go, Dr. J. Bhattacharya. And I think they started off with the COVID one, fam, too, as well, because they know it's not just in particular red meat. It makes them look like they're being partisan and are being even about it, who argued that COVID lockdowns would harm children. Twitter secretly placed him on Trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. And there's Dr. Bhattacharya from Stanford, we all know. And you can see right there, fam. Here it is. Recent abuse of strike. Trends blacklist active. So they want to blacklist him. They want to make sure that his information doesn't get out there. So now that they got that one out of the way, fam, they go right in with your China hawks, right, fam? Here we go. Or consider the popular right-wing talk show host Dan Bongino, okay, who at one point was slapped with a search blacklist. So that's the other part, fam. No, they're not going to let you search. They're going to blacklist you from search. Go ahead and search Combo Couch on a YouTube for a video. All the other Combo Couch bullshit will come up. Not even our stuff with hardly any hits, hardly any views, none of it. To find a Combo Couch video on YouTube, a specific one, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack sometimes if you use their search algorithm. Now, you can find it. You use other search algorithms, of course, or whatnot, or advanced search. Yeah, you can find it. But is that really, really fair? No. So there's other dissenting voices that dissented, but there's Dan Bongino. You can see he got a blacklit search, fam. He got notification spiked. They wanted to do this whole thing. They wanted to make sure they shut down his voice, and it's right there in black and white. And who else do they go to next? Charlie Kirk. So we got Bhattacharya. So we got our COVID guy. Then we got Dan Bongino, and now they go in for Charlie Kirk, China Hawk number 2. China Hawk number 2. Twitter set the account of a conservative activist, Charlie Kirk, to do not amplify. So there it is. Recent abuse strike, notification strike. Do not amplify.
That's nice. But have you ever seen the amount of retweets and shit Charlie Kirk gets? It's a lot. So even if in spite of the amplification stuff, like do not amplify, the guy gets so much traffic. I don't even know if that's even like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm talking about, and I did tweet about this. I'm talking about what they have on Russia state affiliated media. It's impossible. It's impossible to get like any views if you are a Russia state affiliated media account. Impossible. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Why aren't they mentioning that?
Yep. Twitter denied that it does such things, though, fam. They deny that they censor Russian state media or any other dissenting voices. In 2018, Twitter's Vijaya God, the head of legal policy and trust, and Kayvon Bekpour, head of product, said, "We do not shadow ban." They added, "And we certainly do not shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology, fam."
A good one.
Yeah, right. But fam, technically they don't. What many people call shadow banning, Twitter executives and employees call, listen to this now, this is something we learned, visibility filtering, or VF. Multiple high-level sources confirmed its meeting. Now, fam, this is done for 2 reasons. Number one, if they have to go to court for shadow banning, they call it something else that doesn't sound as bad. It's almost like when they said shell shocked, and they said they turned it to PTSD because shell shock would wake people up and go, "Oh my God, our troops are getting shell shocked." No, they have post-traumatic distress order, right? I mean, they change it up to sound. This is the George Carlin thing. This is what they're doing right now. So technically, we're not shadow banning everybody because they call it visibility.
It's gaslighting. Yeah.
Total gaslighting. Think about visibility filtering as being a way for us to suppress what people see to different levels. It's a very powerful tool, one senior Twitter employee told us. Don't have them on the record. Just keep on, just referring to this is the shit we get from Barry Weiss and whatnot. And then it goes on to the VS refers to Twitter's control over visibility. It used VF to block searches on individual users to limit the scope of particular tweets. Yada, yada, yada. Searches all without the viewer's knowledge. No shit. Like we didn't know.
No,
this.
We knew.
Yeah.
No, we know.
And then they said we control visibility quite a bit, and we control the amplification of the content quite a bit. Any normal people do not know how much we do, one Twitter engineer told us. 2 additional Twitter employees confirmed. Would like to have them on the record or maybe crop out their face and do the voice thing. The group that decided whether to limit the reach of certain users was a strategic response team of Global Escalation Team, or SRTGET. It often handled up to 200 cases a day, fam. So what they're saying is that they had a little group inside the group, fam, that made the decisions on the big decisions. But there existed a level beyond official ticketing, beyond the rank and file moderators following the company's policy on paper. That is the site integrity policy escalation support, known as the SIPPES. This secret group included head of legal, policy, and trust, Vijaya again, the global head of trust, in safety, Yoel Roth, subsequent CEOs, Jack Dorsey and Parag Agarwal, and others. Now, fam, this is the point where I think there is some information coming out but people didn't know, or they kind of questioned. Jack Dorsey always said he wasn't part of these decisions. He wasn't in the room. But now they're saying, nope, Jack Dorsey, he's in the room. In fact, he's helped making the decisions made. This is where the biggest, most politically sensitive decisions got made. Think high follower accounts, controversial. Another Twitter employee told us, for these, there would be no ticket or anything. In other words, the rank and file fam were left out. It was kicked up to the secret meeting. All the important people connected to the high-ranking governmental officials that would probably have secret handshaking meetings, they're the ones who made the decisions on the most important one, fam. That's what they are alluding to. And here's the one right now. Now let's get the other box, fam. Remember, we got the COVID box check, right? So all the COVID people will be pissed off. We got Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino, the China Hawk, conservatives guys. Let's get them there now. Where else did we miss off? Well, we got to get somebody who kind of pushes back against gender and pronouns to piss these people off. One of the accounts that rose to this level, fam, was the scrutiny of libs of TikTok, an account that was the Trends Blacklist and was designated as do not take action on user without consulting with SIP or PES, meaning they were very, very, very careful, but they made sure that they had a blacklist. They made sure that they silenced these people. Notifications.
And I saw their posts all the time. Libs of TikTok, I saw their posts all the time.
Because
like they had
people shared them like crazy.
Thousands and thousands and thousands. Yeah, but
1.6 million views, followers, excuse me.
To share, you have to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I think this. I don't even think these people are shadow banned as bad as other people are. Not even close.
Well, I just think they did the thing that we do when we start sharing in our groups and people get it out there. I saw them all the time, fam. They were in my feed quite a bit. That's
what I'm saying. But if you're shadow banned, you don't show up in someone's feed. You literally don't see the people. You literally do not see. I'll show you on my tweet like what I mean.
Yeah. And it just says the account, which Chaya Rayshik began in November 2020 and now boasts about 1.4 million followers, was subject to 6 suspensions in 2022 alone, Rayshik says. Each time, Rayshik was blocked from posting for as long as a week. And they have all this stuff over here, the assessments, the policy recommendations, how to take them down, that gender-affirming healthcare is equivalent to child abuse or grooming, fam. This is the area which they put this right here. This is going to start some shit. They're going to say, listen, okay, you don't agree with us, but we have every right to say this stuff. This is where they're going to. This is what I mean by the red meat. This number 20, the committee justified her suspension internally by claiming her post encouraged online harassment of hospitals and medical providers, right? By insinuating that gender-affirming healthcare is equivalent to child or abuse or grooming. So that's, fam, where they really throw the red meat there. Those freedom of speech. I don't give a shit. This is the left doing what they normally do. And it is literally red meat, fam.
Yeah. No, it's all of it is red meat. Why hasn't I have to get to my tweet, I guess, because I literally touch on all of this. Why aren't they talking about the Palestinian accounts? Have you seen how suppressed the Palestinian accounts are? They're so suppressed. They literally have to I've been asked by several Palestinians, hey, can you retweet this? Because it literally gets no visibility, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, it doesn't even matter. I am so shadow banned. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. I get no more followers. I get nothing. I get tweets that I used to get like thousands, do not get seen. So I said, notice how the Twitter files blacklist only includes conservative voices. They're suggesting only the right have been marked, but I know for a fact that nonpartisan, anti-imperialist, state-affiliated, actual non-lib left, pro-Palestinian accounts do get shadow banned and censored. And if you just go down the thread, I show, I believe, exactly how. So here's an example. And I said, waiting to see Zionist Barry Weiss expose how much pro-Palestinian content is censored and shadow banned, because it is, or to see the revelations of how little engagement state-affiliated accounts get, even blue checks. For example, here's how many views a regular RT video gets. So go to the RT video. It was posted December 7th. If you go to the RT video, you can see how many views it got. Okay.
You want me to go to the video itself?
Yeah, go to the post itself.
Okay, I'm on the post right here.
You are on the post? Or are you on the retweet of the post?
I'm sorry. Where's this here?
12 people, including 2 journalists.
Okay, so can you scroll up? I just want to see if you're on the right. So you are on the post.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why it's not showing you the amount of views. It should be showing you the amount of views. So earlier it was 400, right? And it was like 12 hours that had passed, like a whole day. And that's RT has 3.1 or 3 million followers on Twitter. 3 million followers. And they were only able to get 400 views on a video in a day. Then I have 91,000 plus followers, and I retweeted RT, who has 3 million followers. This is unheard of. This doesn't make any sense, because even if you just barely glance at a video, it normally constitutes that as a view, right? So here's how much the Convo Couch got when I put up the video. It's been 12 hours now. So RT had double the amount of time. It's had a day and a half. So it had, I think you can see it right there.
1,200 views. Yeah.
Yeah. 1,200 views in and that's just, and this is we have the Combo Couch has a fraction of that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. It's impossible. So I don't need these screenshots to tell me that I'm shadow banned. Yes, thank you for confirming that they're shadow banning, but they're not talking about that. They're not talking about Russia state affiliated media. They're not talking about Iranian state, Chinese state affiliated media. They're not talking about any of that. Why aren't they talking about that? Because it has to do with the Defense Department, right? This is the State Department shit. They're not going to get involved with that. This is it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous how shadow banning, the examples that they listed about these accounts being shadow banned, they're not nearly as shadow banned as we are. Ask Wyatt, ask Rachel, ask any of us who have the state affiliated or Iranian state affiliated media. Ask any of us. So hold on. I wanted to point out a couple other things.
Okay.
On the last tweet. So I just think it's really stupid that people are falling for this and not asking these questions. Why the hell are you not talking about this? They're not addressing this issue. This is, to me, the biggest issue, that they can just shadow ban counter narratives. Who are all the journalists that work for an enemy of the United States? we don't get to show the news or push our word. People don't get to see it because we're literally shadow banned. And if we're not shadow banned, you can't even watch an RT video in Europe. You can't even see it. You can't even see it. Why? Like, obviously, I'm more passionate about it because I'm experiencing it. But at the same time, it's like, they're crying about all these conservative voices. They are still getting all of this traffic.
Well,
and I've noticed.
I'm going to just say, listen, I don't want to split hairs and say who's getting censored more. I think it's dissenting voices across the border getting censored. So,
I'm going to say that because I think the problem is people are getting censored, period. I'm not saying they should get censored, but I do believe anti-imperialist voices are getting censored more because we're not even being addressed right now. We're not even addressed at all.
Well,
like
I would definitely say in addition to. I don't know if we get more or less because they don't show us everything. Because here's the thing. They're showing individuals who've gotten suppressed, who've gotten demonetized, who've gotten banned and whatnot. There's also probably a whole category of like the algorithm picking up words, picking up certain things. And so in other words, if you say the I word in that, they'll just suspend that as well. So they're not even lumping in and showing you that. We have to see everything. Everything. We're never going to know anything until we see what's really under the hood and see the mechanisms in which they choose, how to lift up certain voices, certain mainstream narratives, and how they put down the independent voices. So until we see that, I mean, it's going to be so hard.
They're not. First of all, they're not going to show you that. 1, 2, I can show you the videos I used to post from my account before versus the ones I post now. The same exact content.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that they can show you other people on the conservatives have been censored and thrown off too as well. You know what I'm saying? I think it's
but I don't think it's at that level because you can talk about gender stuff. You can talk about, I think the COVID stuff, people got taken down off of Twitter completely for. We were
election
we all saw
stuff
that.
though, election stuff, and it was more conservatives talking about election stuff than it was.
But it was more of taking down the tweets, not the suppression. I have never seen this level of suppression, and I know because I'm experiencing it, but so are my colleagues. And like, this is like nothing. I don't think you're grasping what I'm saying here. Like, it is impossible. It's impossible.
I'm not saying that I'm not grasping it. I'm saying that we don't know for sure which one. I think they're not showing those voices in addition to it, but we don't know who's been censored more, and I don't think we should play that game of who's been censored more or less. I think we've all been censored.
No, I'm not. It's not. I'm not playing a game. I'm just telling you that I don't see conservatives as a threat to the status quo, and there's no the liberals are going to shut them down because they don't like them, because they hate them. But we're talking, right? They're not though. Yeah,
they're not. They're not.
Foreign
they're not a threat
policy
to
is
the status
everything.
quo.
Foreign policy is everything.
Yeah, but when it comes to COVID policies, they were way more harsh than the leftists, and they got shut down as well. So, I mean, COVID policy and elections too, those are two areas where the conservatives were way more vocal than the left. And the left, the anti-imperialist left, we were more vocal, and we point out, and what we're doing today, we're pointing out the hypocrisy of the conservatives and the right. So I hear you, but I mean, there are just other areas too as well. So,
I mean, I definitely think anti-imperialist voices are getting censored more because we are an actual threat to the status quo, to the establishment. And I think, obviously, with COVID, a lot of people were getting that wrong. And they were censoring accounts. They were taking them down. But you would see, for example, videos still. I'm saying there's a different type of shadow ban than putting people on a blacklist, a regular account, than when you put a state-affiliated media label. It's far worse. And it shows in the video watches. And all you have to do is go watch somebody that doesn't have a state-affiliated media account and has, like, say half.
Yeah, there are conservatives who got thrown off right away for minimal stuff too.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the difference in the shadow banning with the label. I'm not saying they weren't censored or banned.
I'm just saying, fam, that we don't have proof that who was censored more. We were all
censored. I think I have plenty of proof. Literally, I could literally take side-by-side videos of what, from any state affiliate, not mine. It could be anybody else's, and you will see the difference between those two accounts. Conservative, liberal, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm saying the state-affiliated accounts offer a deeper type of shadow banning like nothing I've ever seen. This is why they're not showing it there, and they're not gonna do anything about it. If he does something about it, I'll be extremely surprised, because I just don't see him having, something, doing anything like this. He's only going to do things for the conservatives because that's who his audience is right now. And, I don't think anybody should be censored. I'm just telling you the level of shadow banning a state affiliated media account gets is completely like nothing I've seen happen to, because even before I got the state affiliated media account, I would get shadow banned. So would random people, and there was a way to offset it to like not post for a while and get back, and you could tell when you were shadow banned. Yes, that happened. We knew that happened. This is on another level, and I don't know if maybe I should do a video on it just to show like the stark contrast. It is insane. I have never seen anything like it, and they're not addressing it for a reason. That's all, because it has to do with the State Department, and these are the people that feed Elon Musk. So like I said, it doesn't make any sense, any logistical sense. And I've spoken to other people who have the same thing, and they say the same thing. And I know it because there's a way to do it, is if you have another account and you post a video side by side, you see the complete entire difference.
Go ahead. Anything else, or
I'm done. No, I'm done.
That's it. Okay, so I just want to put up my tweet that I had. Hold on.
Yeah, and I want to see Danny's too, because I thought his.
That's the tweet I'm going to put up. Let me get to it. I just had it. Let me get to it, guys. So, guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think people realize just how the shadow banning works.
So, this is it right here. Why is the Twitter and Twitter files document not divulging how this targeted left-wing anti-war voices? And that's the truth. I don't believe for a second they use solely conservative voices. Release the full blacklist, or at least a more full version of it. And that's what we need to do. We're saying release the whole thing. Just show us the method behind the madness. Show us how you make these determined. Show us who else is blackballed, shadow banned, and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, that's just it right there. Fam, you got anything else on this section? Do you have one more? Do you want to show Whitney Webb's, or?
Yeah. So a lot of people have been just talking about this Twitter files revelation like nobody has ever talked about what Twitter's been doing. And Whitney Webb has done articles on it. So has Alan from Mint Press, and so has Vanessa Beeley. So she said, yes, Twitter census people, has close ties to the national security state. This is exactly why I think there's a difference between state-affiliated media and shadow banning regular people. Because Twitter has ties to the national security state, and they have a certain agenda, and Elon gets his money from these people, which is why I don't understand why people think that he's somehow going to release all this information. She said, however, now people are not focusing on how SBF is about to get away with $1 billion Ponzi, on how the WHO is about to establish a global biosecurity authority. And she goes on to talk a little bit more. And nobody's talking about this stuff except, the usual suspects, the Whitney Webbs of the world, the people that are talking about this surveillance state. And can you scroll down?
Yes, ma'am.
So she said, people, including myself, Vanessa Beeley, and Alan McLeod, have been reporting on the cozy relationship between social media and the U.S. government long before the Twitter files. Guys, this is nothing new. This is it's frustrating because it seems like people are just like waking up to this when a lot of us have been talking about this for a while. And she posted an article from Unlimited Hangout that you guys should read. And then she said, it's fine to read plus appreciate the Twitter files reporting, but there are other more pressing, more current stories that arguably deserve more of our attention and outrage that are happening right now, not 2 years ago. Yeah, guys, this is, it's like, I'm not trying to like wag my finger, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes you have to. I mean, this is a very delayed, like, yes, we knew this, The biggest red flag to me about the Twitter files is the lack of attention to COVID-19 censorship. If this was really about exposing the social media security state censorship, the brutal censorship of dissenting opinions from pharma-sponsored science should be a key focus. They mentioned Jay Bhattacharya, and that's it. They didn't really talk about everything else that was censored regarding COVID. And you know, a lot of people got that wrong. A lot of people were in favor of this censorship because they said it was spreading misinformation that could get people sick. And you couldn't even talk about ivermectin, but you were taking down, you know, whole accounts were taken down, whole accounts were completely taken off. And really, I think there's only a limit that the Elon Musks are going to talk about that, because again, he's still working with the State Department, and these same people are the ones in charge of big pharma. So I think it's important to point that out. I think it's important to point out the fault, like the failures that the Twitter files aren't showing.
Because they're being selective on purpose. They're trying to rile up one side while not showing the censorship of another. You know what I'm saying? Not showing the censorship from, like you said, the people who are going to talk about foreign policy, the people who are going to talk about elections. You know, I'm surprised they didn't show any of that stuff. Like somebody getting, but Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino were screaming about elections themselves, so I'm sure they'll lump them in that as well. So it depends on what you're talking about. I guarantee you that if we looked at all their devices, they're going to show you just certain posts, not even go after certain people, but just certain posts that have certain topics in it. One of them being the I word. I guarantee you anything that has the I word gets flagged, and it doesn't make a difference what political affiliation there is. If you're mentioning the I word, they'll take you down, censor you, possibly shadow ban you, or do whatever. So,
and I don't know. I don't feel like it's as bad now with COVID. I feel like it's more allowed now, but I haven't seen accounts be taken down regarding COVID as much now as they were before.
Yeah. Well, they still haven't let the doctors on. A lot of the doctors still down. McCullough is still gone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No McCullough, no Malone.
But so is Scott Ritter. So is Garland Nixon. So are people that are, you know, anti-imperialists. And I think, again, when you're talking about the connections to Elon and the State Department, I think when it comes to the State Department's tentacles, you have to look at big pharma, protecting big pharma, because that is part of the State Department, believe it or not. And also, of course, exposure of the military-industrial complex. And if you have adversarial media and adversarial people, you're going to have more of an impetus to censor those people than you are everybody else. Like, I think if you say ivermectin on Twitter, I don't think you're taken down anymore.
Probably not. I got suspended for it. They took the post down, got suspended. You know.
Yeah, that was at the peak of COVID, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty. I mean, I mean, I don't even know when the peak.
You had to take the post down. You weren't suspended, like.
No, that was the McCullough one that I had. They.
Yeah, but you weren't suspended off Twitter. You were.
The ivermectin.
They locked you.
The ivermectin. They locked me and they gave me a timeout, and then I was able to come back. But like the 4 principles of COVID by Dr. McCullough, which I put videos up, that's the one they said take it down, and they wouldn't let me share my thread, and it's the top tweet, and so that's why I got screwed on that one. Anything else, fam?
No, that's it.
All right, let's get to this last section, guys. This is it right now. This is the time to go on over to Rockfin and Rumble only. If you're a premium member, go over to Rockfin. If you're not a premium member and you'd like to become one, it's $14.99 for the month, and you get everybody's premium content across the board. If not, you just can go over to Rumble, RUMBLE. I'm going to go over to Rumble right now. I'm going to grab the link. If you can, Jilly Love. If you can, Lucky Burrito. Good to see you guys today. Get over. I'm going to share it right now. It's down there in the YouTube link, in the chat, excuse me. Go over and share that, guys. There's the Rumble link. You can watch the show for free. We're going to talk about what happened in New Zealand, fam. Jacinda, your friend. So let's get on over. We're leaving YouTube in 5, in 4, in 3, in 2, in 1. Goodbye, YouTube.